Lone Tree, Colorado. A Saturday afternoon, 1 o'clock Mountain Standard Time, and a church in the Denver suburbs that was about to hold one of the most emotional celebrations of life that the global evangelical world has witnessed in years. The celebration of life for Marilyn Hickey took place on Saturday, May 23, 2026, at 1:00 p.m. Mountain Standard Time at the Word of Life Christian Center in Lone Tree, Colorado. The service was also live-streamed for those unable to attend in person. Marilyn Hickey died on April 25, 2026, in Denver, Colorado, at the age of 94. She had devoted more than 6 decades to preaching the gospel across more than 100 countries. And what happened inside that church on Saturday afternoon was everything the global church community had been preparing for since the moment Sarah Bowling posted those words on a Sunday morning in April. "Hey, just letting peeps know that my mom, Marilyn Hickey, went to heaven yesterday at the age of 94. Not a press release, not a ministry announcement. Hey, just letting peeps know from a daughter about her mother, in the most human, unmanaged, completely real language possible. Let's start with Sarah, because she was not just the eulogist on Saturday. She was the miracle, the 10-year wait. The daughter Marilyn Hickey prayed for, declared in faith, and held in her arms after everyone else said it was not going to happen. One tribute wrote, "Wallace has been waiting, now you are free." Wallace has been waiting. She was married to him for 57 years. She lost him in 2012 to Alzheimer's disease, the cruelest possible goodbye, the one that takes the person slowly before it takes them completely. She grieved. She kept going. She kept preaching. She kept flying to Pakistan at 80 years old and standing before 210,000 people and saying God heals, God provides, God has already secured what you need. And now, on a Saturday in Lone Tree, Sarah stood before the room and said goodbye to the woman who waited 10 years to have her, who prayed her into existence, who raised her to carry the torch. And the room held that weight completely. A Bible college student who had studied under Marilyn Hickey in the 1990s wrote, "She was my teacher, my pastor, but most of all my friend. She taught me well. Wallace has been waiting. Now you are free. Sarah, continue to carry the torch and the light. She taught me well." From a student who sat in her classroom 30 years ago and carried what she learned out into a life that would not have been the same without it. That is the specific, compounding legacy of a woman who taught, not just preached, taught, who put things into people that they carried for decades and are still carrying now. The room on Saturday was full of those people. The ones she taught in Denver in the 1980s. The ones who found her television program in the middle of the night when they needed something and didn't know what. The ones who flew from Pakistan and Egypt and Panama and wherever else her crusades had reached, because she showed up for them, and now they were showing up for her. But wait, let me ask you something. Have you ever sat in a celebration of life and felt the specific, extraordinary quality of collective grief, where hundreds of people are crying simultaneously, but not for the same reasons, where one person is crying because she lost her pastor, another because he lost his mentor, another because the book Marilyn wrote in 1985 is the reason he is still alive, another because the clean water well-funded in her name is the reason his village has water. That is what Saturday was, not a homogeneous grief, a multiplied one. Every person in that room at Word of Life Christian Center holding a different version of what Marilyn Hickey meant to them, and all of them crying for something real. Another tribute read, "This woman blessed me in numerous ways. She will be dearly missed every day in every way. I loved her preaching. What an amazing life." And another, "I am so sorry for the pain of losing her. May God hold you extra tight." The condolences did not stay formal. They did not stay at the level of tributes to a public figure. They became personal because Marilyn Hickey made her ministry personal. She sat at a television camera for 60 years and spoke directly to the person on the other side of the screen, not to an audience, to a person, to the specific, individual human being who was watching alone at 2 a.m. and needed exactly what she was saying. That is why the room on Saturday was what it was, not because she was famous, because she was personal. The emotional center of the entire service. The moment that people who were watching the live stream from Pakistan and Egypt and Panama and Colorado living rooms in Singapore and Nigeria and everywhere else she had ever preached arrived when Sarah stepped to the microphone. She had not managed what she was going to say in advance, not the way a publicist manages something. She had simply prepared to speak the truth the way her mother always did, without softening it, without performing it, without making it more presentable than it actually was. She said her mother was her best friend. And the room, that room full of Bible college students and crusade attendees and television viewers and missionaries and pastors and humanitarian workers, and the people whose wells were funded, and the people whose bodies were healed, and the people whose faith was reignited by a woman from Dalhart, Texas, who was told she could never have children and waited 10 years, and then had Sarah. That room felt the full weight of what those 5 words actually meant. Best friend, mother, miracle mentor, gone. The service was held at the Word of Life Christian Center in Lone Tree, the Denver area church that was connected to Marilyn Hickey's ministry, and that could hold the community she built across 60 years of preaching in their own backyard. Not a stadium, not a television studio, not Pakistan or Egypt or the UN podium where she once stood and spoke about faith. A church in Lone Tree, Colorado. Because in the end, Marilyn Hickey came home to the same place she started, Denver, Colorado, the city where she built her ministry from scratch, where she and Wallace co-pastored together, where she launched the television program that eventually reached 2 billion households, where she died on April 25 after a life so full that the obituaries barely contain it. The most moving moment of the entire service, the one that no camera angle fully captured, was the silence that came after the final song. Not the applause, not the tears, the silence. The specific, sacred silence of a room full of people who understood that something irreplaceable had just been formally acknowledged as gone. And then Sarah broke it, not with a word, with a breath. And then she spoke, and everything she said was exactly right, because Marilyn Hickey raised her that way. Marilyn Aline Hickey, July 1, 1931, April 25, 2026, aged 94. She covered the earth with God's word, and on a Saturday afternoon in Lone Tree, Colorado, the earth said thank you. Rest well, Marilyn. Wallace was waiting. Thank you for watching.